All right. We're going to stay on this Terence Crawford, Shawn Porter issue because it is clearly getting in got a lot of people in their feelings about Terence Crawford not wanting to fight Shawn Porter or not wanting to fight Danny Garcia. And let me tell you, man, y'all need to step up and tell your boy Bud, and I like Bud a lot, that look, leading fans by the nostrils all the way through your career is not going to go unnoticed. Let's talk about the Shawn Porter-Terence Crawford fight or the Shawn Porter-Danny Garcia fight and the necessity for Terence Crawford for some point in time in his time at welterweight to fight somebody that is a legitimate challenger and respond indirectly to notions that people are picking on Bud in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, make sure you come by OG Boxing Talk Sunday, 8 a.m. with myself, my partner, Blood Boxing, KQKC Boxing, Trap House Boxing, and my man, Curtis Anderson, the excellent boxing historian, always on his P's and Q's. Definitely check out the Patreon coming up 2020. You guys, look, I'm got some new featured programs that I'm going to be putting out over on the Patreon channel. And it's going to be consistent series, and they're going to be highly, to the fullest extent possible for me, highly produced, and try to give you as much value as I possibly can give you in 2020. So stay tuned. All right. And also thank you to people that joined as members. Look, let's get to this. All right. I've been on this Terence Crawford situation that has been talked about a lot amongst YouTube channels. It's been sprinkling over into the mainstream press. People have been talking about it in comment sections. People out there putting stupid ass diss videos out on people because of this. And I've been pretty much the first person. I'm not going to say the first person because I don't watch everybody's videos, but without having heard anybody else say it, I'm telling you what I've been saying since the fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Shawn Porter. When people jumped all over Errol Spence Jr. and started trying to run with this narrative that Errol Spence Jr. was ducking Terence Crawford. Okay? That's when this stuff started. The idea that Terence Crawford had moved up into the 147-pound division. Errol Spence Jr. used to be the boogeyman of 147. Shawn Porter was scared to fight him. Keith Thurman wouldn't fight him. Danny Garcia wouldn't fight him. Nobody would fight him. He had to go over to the UK, knock out Kell Brook to get his IBF belt. He comes back from that, and now he says it's strap season. He wants to fight the other champions. And so that was the mystique around Errol Spence Jr. when this started. Then Terence Crawford moves up from the 147-pound division. And before he moves up into the 147-pound division, people start talking about the matchup between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, which is a reasonable fight to think about, right? And want to see happen. You have the best 140-pound fighter moving up to 147 pounds. He's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, if not the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Errol Spence Jr., nobody wants to fight Errol Spence Jr. He's knocking people out, doing all this stuff. That is a reasonable and natural association to make when Terence Crawford comes to the 147-pound division. When he won, I do believe that was in June of 2018. The conversation really started a little bit before that, once he was named the mandatory. And Errol Spence Jr. said, look, man, get a belt, right? Get a belt first. People started asking Errol Spence Jr. about Terence Crawford. Errol Spence is saying strap season. Hey, tell Terence Crawford to get a belt. Terence Crawford gets a belt. The WBO belt. Errol Spence Jr. says it's strap season. So he gets in the ring in the fight after Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia. After Shawn Porter wins that belt, Errol Spence Jr. gets in the ring and calls him out. That, my friends, I do believe is chasing a strap, which, by the way, he ultimately got. So, but there's a lot of talk and attacks going on from Terence Crawford fans about Errol Spence Jr. and how Errol Spence Jr. said the other side of the street and how there's no real other side of the street. Errol Spence said Bob Arum is smoke and mirrors, right? All of that stuff is going around. Errol Spence Jr. gets in a car accident, right? So that's where we were. After the Shawn Porter Errol Spence Jr. fight and Errol Spence Jr. gets the belt, that's where we were. I the whole time had been saying, when is Bud going to fight somebody? Why doesn't Bud fight somebody? Doesn't Bud have to fight somebody? Why does Errol have to fight? Why does Errol have to do this, do that, do this? Errol has to call out Bud. Bud's not saying Errol's name directly, but Errol's supposed to say Bud's name. That's when we were having a good, fun back and forth. But then something happened with a car accident that messed up that whole narrative with Terence Crawford. Killed it. And now Terence Crawford is out here looking bad because of Terence Crawford, not because of the people that are pointing out what's happening. Errol Spence Jr. got in a car accident. Errol Spence Jr., as far as we knew, was unavailable to fight, and we did not know when he would be back. Some people were saying, people close to him saying that the accident was okay. There was nothing really happened. He'll be back, right? That type of conversation was going on. But there was a mystery around when Errol Spence Jr. was going to be back. So now Terence Crawford does not have that. Terence Crawford does not have the I want Errol Spence, or the people that are supporting Terence Crawford don't have that. I want Errol Spence. He needs to fight Errol Spence. It's Errol Spence. It's Errol Spence or nothing. It's Errol Spence or it's Errol Spence or bust, right? Now you don't have that because it's reasonable for Errol Spence Jr. not to fight Terence Crawford right away because he was just in a wreck of a Ferrari, 100-mile-an-hour wreck, Ferrari wreck. So what do people start doing? Who are you going to fight, Bud? I start pushing for, and other people I'm sure start saying, look, man, what about Shawn Porter? Look, man, fight somebody in the interim. If there is no such thing as a side of the street and all that is nonsense, why don't you fight Shawn Porter? He's right there. Fight Shawn Porter. But what does Bud say? No. Or that's at least the impression that is being given, that people are getting from Bud. No, Bud, he says that he's not interested in that fight on DAZN. To Chris Mannix, that's not a fight that he's looking at. And for some reason, Bud fans are in there feeling because people criticize him for that. Bud has been a champion at 147 pounds by the time he has his next fight. More than likely, by the time he has his next fight, he will have been a champion for going on 2 years. 2 years in the welterweight division. In 2 years, he has not fought anybody that is remotely considered a top welterweight. And you could say, hey, the PBC is protecting these fighters or keeping them away from Bud. But you can't say that now because Kenny Porter said, first he said it on 78 Sports TV's channel. Then he said it elsewhere. Hey, we got the green light from the PBC to fight Terence Crawford. Send me the contract. Send us. Now that is not just Kenny Porter. That's not just Shawn Porter's father. Not just his father, even though that means a lot. It's also his manager. It's also his trainer says, send us the contract. We got the green light to get the fight. You know what? You know what he had to do to get the green light to get the fight? One of two things had to have happened, for him to get the green light. Either the PBC had to call him and say, hey, we want you to fight Terence Crawford. Why don't you try to get that fight? Or Kenny Porter had to call the PBC and say, hey, is there going to be any issue and would you support us fighting Terence Crawford? And the PBC had to say yes. Same thing Danny Garcia said. Danny Garcia's, look, man, I got the style to beat anybody. If they want to fight me, tell Bob Arum to send me the contract and we can negotiate a fight with Terence Crawford. That's what Danny Garcia said. And I don't care whether or not Danny Garcia's daddy used the N-word 3 years ago. So what? So what? He said that he would do the fight. If the money's right, the paperwork's right, send him the fight. So that is now two PBC fighters that say they're willing to fight Bud, but Bud is acting like he don't want to do it. No. So what are we to expect? What are you to expect people to say about Bud? To continue to say, oh, well, Bud just continue to fight David Benavidez and Amir Khans and Igis Kalvanakis, and well, let's get a rematch with Jeff Horn while we wait around. While we wait around for something to happen that Bud really likes. Now, Bud don't want to take the fight. But let me tell you what it's starting to look like, and I think this is a reasonable thing to say. It's looking like Bud Crawford did what Tim Bradley did. He chose to stay with Top Rank so that he could get fights and get consistent paydays, get consistent low-risk paydays for the foreseeable future and not risk it all in one big fight that he has the potential to lose and knock him off his square. So he took, and this is something that Bomac said in an interview on Trill Boxing Talk. Why not take the guaranteed money? That's the old bird in the hand is worth two in the bush argument. And that is a real thing. So don't get mad at people that say, hold on, man, we can understand when I didn't understand it. I thought it was nonsense because I knew when Errol Spence Jr. said to other side of the streets and what he meant by taking the easy route. That he meant because he was at a fight with Shawn Porter. Hey, why not make a fight with Shawn Porter? That fight can be made. There's not a lot of drama about it. And guess what? He went on ahead and he did it. He went and fought for the WBC belt and unified the belt, just like he called out and just like the plan he said he always had. But Terence Crawford now has the opportunity to fight PBC fighters that would be the toughest fights and the biggest fights that he has had in his career, but he doesn't want them. Similar to Tim Bradley not wanting a Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight, but wanting to continually fight the Ruslan Provodnikovs and get, 2 and 3 fights with Manny Pacquiao. Even though a fight with Floyd Mayweather Jr. would have been significantly more lucrative for him. But he figures, hey, if I can keep getting all these fights and if I keep fighting in-house, I'll keep getting in-house. And he goes and gets his job with Top Rank. He ain't never had an idea about leaving Top Rank. And that's what it's looking like for Terence Crawford. And you guys can get as mad as you want about the fact that more and more people are starting to see that. And it doesn't matter what your personal opinions are about the people that said it. Look at what Bud does. If Bud does not affirmatively start talking about fighting Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia, Ugas, and the other PBC fighters, then nobody should say anything about Terence Crawford being blacklisted by the PBC when half of the damn PBC welterweights are calling for him. But he says he doesn't want it. So cry me a river on all that nonsense and tell your boy to stop trying to lead. And I like Terence Crawford as a fighter, but it is clear that he is leading fight fans by the nose and leading them on so he can get continual set paydays at low risk. And I think that is a reasonable conclusion to draw from his actions recently. Prior to that, you could have said, hey, maybe these guys aren't trying to fight him. But once they start talking about fighting him and he says no or implies that he's not interested, then you know that they're not ducking him. He's not interested. It is what it is, and you guys got to live with it. Cry me a river if you do not like it. And it is what it is, and with that, I'm out. Peace.